Hello and welcome to 18 WJTS in.form. Well, oftentimes you hear things in the news about child abuse and you're wondering, it doesn't really happen that much around here, or you may think it really doesn't affect me. You might be surprised. Joining us in the studio is Tammy Lampert. She is the Executive Director for the Southwest Indiana Child Advocacy Coalition Center. Tammy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me again.
Well, you know, all of a sudden there's a lot of news now about child abuse or child molestation, and it may surprise some people. But this is something that's happening now, but what can we do to prevent it before it gets to this point?
Well, and I love that you asked that question because we have some opportunities coming up in the near future. So September 11th, we are having a community training, which is open to anyone and everyone in the community, whether it be teachers, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, mentors, youth group organizations, and that training is being presented by Corey Jewel Jensen, and she is a national presenter. She actually was presenting at Dallas Crimes Against Children this week, which is really cool because that's like a internationally sought after conference. So we're going to have her on September 11th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time at the Huntingburg Event Center, and she is going to educate everybody on grooming tactics, what to look for, and she's worked with sex offenders for, I mean like 20 some years, maybe even almost 30 now. And so her data and her research comes directly from them. There's a pamphlet, which I think is really cool. It's chilling, but it actually has quotes from the child molesters that said how they outwitted the adults, how they tricked the kids, or how they not even tricked them, just how, you know, the process is kind of slow for some of it, and they don't hurt the child. They want, because if they hurt them, then the child's going to tell right away. And so just different grooming tactics. So that is one huge piece right here for free. We're offering pizza and drinks, you know, so people can come and get educated on that. And that's definitely a big way to prevent abuse.
And we've talked about this before. You don't have to register. You could just show up that night. You'd like to maybe know that some people are coming.
Yeah,
especially if a group, like a church group or maybe a scouting troop or something, once, you know, the adult leaders are all getting together. You might like to know a big number.
Yeah, so if you do hashtag SWICACC, so hashtag SWICACC, it'll link you to our Facebook page, and then you can find the event and you can put interested or going or whatever, because we would like to have an estimate so that we have enough pizza and drinks for everybody, and that we have enough chairs and everything set up too. So, but it's not, pre-registration or anything like that is not required. We're having a separate training that is for professionals in our area, and so SWICACC gives a training every single year for our team members that are challenged with investigating child abuse. This year it's different because we actually opened it up to include judges, community corrections, probation, mental health, medical health. We open it up to those professionals because not only do we need to educate our investigators on the ones who are investigating the allegations, but then to also educate on sentencing, where's the best placing for these offenders once they're found guilty, and then for community corrections and probation to have some kind of education on how to best supervise them. So
now, you know, for our TV audience, they may not be a prosecutor or law enforcement, but they're just regular people. Isn't everybody tasked with the responsibility of reporting things they see?
Absolutely. So in the state of Indiana, every person is a mandatory reporter, which means if they have reason to suspect a child is being abused or neglected or anything like that, they're required to report. And that phone number is 800-800-5556. And I tell people all the time to dual report, so report to that 800 number, which is the Department of Child Services hotline, and also to law enforcement so that we don't miss the boat somewhere. And so by dual reporting, we're guaranteeing somebody's going to be looking out for that kid. And, you know, if we have reason to suspect it, just report it. I mean, it's better to be safe than sorry at that point. You know, it's funny, I just had a conversation yesterday, and it was, you know, so many times whenever we talk to kids in the interview, we'll be like, did you tell anybody? And they'll say, no. Well, how come you didn't tell? And it was, nobody asked me. Or, you know, they told me I wouldn't be believed, things like that. And I just think, my goodness, like all the interactions that adults have with children. I mean, the kids probably see at minimum, let's say with school, the bus driver, maybe an after-school program, their parents, whatever. I mean, at minimum, let's say 10 adults a day. And out of those 10 adults, like, nobody asked,
so kids
what
should
happened? Are you okay? Like, has somebody done something? You know, it's just, it's crazy to me that we don't ask our kids more questions.
And sometimes all you got to do is listen to the kids. Because they will say a lot that may lead you down a path that leads you to something to find information out.
Yes, and that's another thing that's awesome about like September 11th or training, or that sounded odd to say. Not awesome about September 11th. That was a horrible day for our nation. But for the training on September 11th, that, you know, listening to those clues that they give us. Because a lot of times when kids disclose, they disclose in their own way. And it might be through behavior. It might be to where they give just a tidbit to see how the adult's going to react to what they say. It could be them saying they don't want to go somewhere, or they don't like somebody. So many different ways that kids communicate. And the other thing is they might not have words for what happened, you know, depending on the age of the child. They haven't learned what that kind of stuff is called, or what adults call it. And so for them to be able to process and have the right words to tell somebody what happened is very difficult for them.
So this event that you have coming up September 11th is a great event to go to, and very important for anybody. Is welcome to go. It doesn't matter. But you also have an event that is more sports oriented.
It is
coming up toward the end of the month.
It is. That's our fundraising event, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So September 22nd, we have our 5K, and this year we added the canoe piece to it. And so that's at, we're starting and finishing at Cape Country Canoes, and that's on September 22nd. And for that, people can register online, which is at our website, which is www.SWICACC.com. It's really reasonably priced too, which I think is awesome, and hopefully encourages more people to go. It's definitely kid friendly, so kids can do both events or one or whatever. And if they register by September 1st, then they can get a t-shirt. And we love when people get the t-shirts. I know some people are like, oh, I don't need another t-shirt, but we like it because if people wear it, it's a conversation starter, and it educates more people on what the organization does. So,
and you are holding this in Crawford County, but we want folks to understand you don't serve just Dubois County.
No.
SWICACC is
regional. So we serve Crawford, Daviess, Dubois, Martin, Orange, Perry, and Spencer County. And so for the same thing for our event on September 11th, whether it be the professional training or the community training, everyone throughout the state is invited, actually, because we have advertised it at the state level, because we just want to we want to educate as many people as we can. The more education we have, the better we can do, you know. And it's funny because there's so much research and data that, you know, shows that child maltreatment is not just an issue for the child who's abused, the family that was involved, or the social work sector. It affects public, private sectors. It affects everyone across the board, to where, you know, let's say that we have a child who wasn't abused, but they're in school with the child who was abused. Or we have to where that child who was abused grows up and they maybe have, you know, increased anxiety or health issues, things like that. That's going to affect the employer in regards to their attendance at work. And then we look at to where, you know, if the child experienced a lot of maltreatment and that turns into, you know, substance abuse issues and things like that, that again affects everyone. Because, you know, I know it's funny because people will be like, well, when you present about child abuse and how detrimental it is to the community or society, you need to throw dollar signs out. Everybody's always worried about money. And I mean, it is like hundreds of millions of dollars, because if we don't take care of the issue when it happens, then we are going to have mental health issues, we're going to have substance abuse issues, we're going to have suicide, we're going to have all those things, which are very costly to the community and to our governments and the taxpayers. The other thing is I'm like, well, think about if we just prevent it from happening in the first place. Like, I mean, I just don't even know if we could imagine what a world like that would be like, but it's possible. It is possible for us to do that. And
that's really where it needs to be. We need to stop that cycle.
We do.
I mean, we react to drug overdoses and meth epidemics, okay, but we don't talk about child abuse epidemics. And probably the number of cases is more than the other way around, than drugs. Well, and usually related to drugs, too.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of time, you know, it's funny because I'm reading I'm reading this book by Catherine Ortega Courtney, PhD, and Dominic Capella. And I love the book so far because it talks about if child maltreatment, like if we really looked at it, it would be not only just an epidemic, we would be in a state of emergency. How do we fix this? How do we make it better? And I don't know why we don't view it that way. I really don't, because it happens every day, all day long, multiple kids. And we're just talking about what happens currently. I mean, there's over 42 million survivors of child abuse just in the United States. So you think about that number and it's crazy. I mean, and we can do better. You know, we can not only just educate the kids, we educate the adults too on what to look for, how to keep their kids safer, how to, you know, maybe choose better who the kids are around, and the alone time that the child has with somebody. And then I think the other thing is we look at we don't just look at childhood sexual abuse. I mean, we look at sexual abuse, physical abuse, maltreatment, neglect. We look at, you know, what did they witness? What did they see? I think so many times we miss the boat on when kids grow up around domestic violence, how traumatic that is for them. And we miss it altogether. Or we turn our heads because, well, that's none of my business. I shouldn't step in, or that's a family matter. And we have to stop that. We cannot continue that belief. It's not gotten us anywhere but in worse shape.
One of the first steps is folks can go to your September 11th seminar or event going on. They can support SWICACC a number of ways, like at the Run, Walk, Canoe event coming up at the end of September, or just giving you a call and seeing how they can help. You need volunteers. We need volunteers, but we also are gearing up our board. So I'm pretty excited about this aspect too. Our board, we are in the process of getting new board members. And so it's funny because everybody kind of thinks, oh, I have to be in the social work field or something. And we don't need you to be in the social work field. We need people with marketing backgrounds, with finance backgrounds. I'm trying to think. I mean, there were so many. I have this whole list, you know, of different things that we need community members who have those types of skill sets to come on board and help us, because the organization is just growing leaps and bounds. And we need those other, I want to say community members, but those who are committed and have a different skill set outside of the social work realm, because we do need to figure out how we make sure that every kid knows that there's a child advocacy center. And that would be huge for us in marketing. We need somebody that looks at the organization as a business also and helps us grow in that manner. Service-wise, like programs and services, we are just booming, you know. We've done, I don't even know, like probably 250 forensic interviews already this year. And while that's, it's good that we're talking to the kids, we still can improve and do better. And I think that, a lot of times we have the headlines that hit and the public is just outraged, and they should be outraged, but I want them to take that energy and I want them to put it towards, let's make sure it doesn't happen to another kid. Stop it in the first place.
Yeah. What can we do to make what did happen for a child who was abused, what can we do to make things better for them? So there's so many opportunities, and it just depends. Child abuse makes people very uncomfortable. And so this is an opportunity to where, you don't want to be in the programming side of things. You don't want to hear about the horrible, awful things that happen to kids, but you want to make a difference, and you can do so by, joining the board and helping on the fundraising side of things like that. So.
Okay, well, Tammy, thank you very much for coming in. We're out of time, but we have you come in roughly once a month, and so we'll hear more from Tammy later. But remember, September 11th, big event coming up, and September 22nd is your fundraiser. Hashtag SWICACC?
Hashtag SWICACC.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Tammy Lampert has been our guest here on 18 WJTS in Form. We're local people watching local people.